Good morning and welcome to another edition of Changemakers and Champions, a podcast for Our Lady of Mercy Community Outreach Services. We started this podcast to amplify changemakers and champions in our community that are doing extraordinary work that you may never, ever hear of. But today I'm excited. I have my friend and a guest whose name has been mentioned more than anybody else's name on our podcast in our short time. Mr. Mickey Bakst, everybody, welcome.
Oh, my God, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to meet this guy he's introducing.
Well, he's here, and I'm elated to have you with us,
Thank
Mickey.
you. Thank you, Jermaine.
You've been a long-time friend, but also a community leader, a connector in a community. Many people know your name, but they may not know the why. Why, Mickey, do you give at the level you give? And is it more of a head thing or a heart thing as far as how you give?
It's totally ego. I just want people to like me. Okay, that's a joke. That's a joke, ladies and gentlemen. Why? I'm asked this a lot of times. There's a couple of reasons, though. Upbringing.
Yeah.
I came from a family that believed. I was raised in a Jewish household where the idea of helping others was burned into our DNA. I remember being a young kid and my parents taking me to rummage sales in neighborhoods where the people couldn't afford clothes or food.
Right.
And we would be kids helping people who desperately needed a jacket, a shirt, a pair of pants. And the impact that had on us was really profound. And then I've told you the story before. My parents, I remember very clearly, took my brother and I, when I was maybe 10 and he was 7, down to the most difficult and impoverished part of Detroit.
Right.
And we sat outside of a church and watched people standing in line in the cold, little kids, people of all ages, waiting for a hot meal.
Yeah.
And they said to us, and I've rephrased it because I'm sure they didn't use these exact words. They said to us, kids, it is incumbent upon you to help others when you have the means to do so.
Yeah.
I then, as I grew up, watched my mother in particular, volunteer for so many different other causes.
Yeah.
It was senior citizens. It was children.
Yeah.
It was people with cancer after she experienced cancer. And so I think that it was in my DNA. It was burnt into me.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for that.
Absolutely.
The other thing is I'm very public about I'm alcoholic and a drug addict and a basic degenerate, ladies and gentlemen. Don't believe the exterior. But the truth of the matter is I died on an emergency room table in December of 1982. And I am not a religious person in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
But for some reason, I made it when so many others didn't.
Right.
And I was always in restaurants. But at some point out of that, after losing my first restaurant, dying on the table, I realized that restaurants were my life, but there was more to my life.
Yeah.
And that I wasn't, as corny as this sounds, I couldn't reckon with the fact that I was saved just to run a restaurant.
Absolutely.
Or own a restaurant.
Yeah,
I believe that I was saved for another reason.
Right.
And I know that sounds corny. I know that sounds arrogant.
Not corny at all.
But that's I think those two things. And then honestly, for everybody out there, when I got sober, I went into AA.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say that AA unconditionally saved my life. And AA is the 12th step of AA, basically paraphrasing, is you have to give back to keep it.
Yeah.
And I believe that giving back helped grow me as a human being to a place where I could walk with my head tall,
Yeah.
where I could walk in confidence,
Yeah.
and I could feel proud of who I was. Because that's
Absolutely.
something I didn't feel before. Was
Gotcha.
that too long of an answer?
No. That's
Yeah.
very powerful,
Yeah.
Mickey, and thank you for sharing and being authentic with me and our audience. That's the reason why we started this podcast. Is that we don't come from wealth, and not everybody comes from a silver spoon. And you're an example of someone that does not come from wealth, but you've had tremendous impact in our community to where everybody knows your name because of giving. And how do you help someone start in our audience or hearing this who doesn't have wealth that wants to make a difference? Where do they start?
Well, I wanna point out, as you were talking, I was thinking about this.
Yeah.
Um, I am not a rich man. I'm a comfortable. Well, my wife and I are comfortable, and in comparison to many, we are well to do, but we're really not wealthy.
Right.
I honestly have not donated a lot of money to anybody.
Personally.
Personally,
Gotcha.
to personally. Um, so what I say to people is, you don't need to be wealthy to help.
Right.
You need to care. You need to be willing to commit time and energy. But wealth is not a factor in the ability to help others.
Right.
Wealth is not a factor at all.
Yeah.
At OLM in the food kitchen there on America Street, you don't need to have money to go and say, I want to help.
Absolutely.
To come to your organization on John's Island and say, hey, I've got 5 hours a week.
Yeah.
How can I assist you?
Yeah.
That's where honestly people think that money is the best way to give.
Mm-hmm.
Money's essential, let's be honest.
Absolutely.
OLM needs your listeners and everybody to know that there's financial responsibilities
Right.
that OLM has. But there's also the human hours and time and energy that's needed.
That's just as valuable.
And so for me, I have been able to do things in the community, which I'm really proud of, but I've been able to do it by offering my time, offering my energy,
Absolutely.
I
Well,
hope I answered the question. I get distracted easily.
I think you're on track.
Yeah.
And just to piggyback off of your response, because as you stated, you're not wealthy, but for our organization, which I've been in, a part of for the last 3 years, I know for a fact that you yourself from Feed the Need and your other philanthropic efforts have given over $1 million to our organization. But that's just to us. No telling what you've given to the other 2 organizations and other philanthropic, responses that you're passionate about. What does that make you feel? How does that make you feel knowing you don't come from wealth, but you've contributed over millions of dollars to organizations that need it the most? And I know for our organization, your gift every year is significant for us in our mission.
Well, I'm grateful. I'm grateful to be able to help. How does that make me feel? Nervous as hell, because what am I going to do when I stop doing it? I have to think, how do the organizations go? That's a real big issue with me right now. How does it make me feel? I don't know a word to put it in. I'm grateful to have the skill to be able to do it. I'm truly grateful. And I'm thinking, if you're talking to people about how to give, we all have talents.
Right.
We all have talents. How do you utilize your talents to help the organization that you care about? I care about those that can't care for themselves. And that's just my thing.
Your
Others,
philosophy, That's your philosophy.
yeah. Others can care about other things. I I don't know. I lost the question. What was the question again?
Yeah, we're talking about someone that does not have wealth, but you've given millions of dollars to
because I
organizations.
use my skill. I use my skill.
What
and
is that skill, Mickey? Everybody wants to know that skill that Mickey has.
You tell me. You've seen it.
I have.
I just believe that I honestly engage with people.
Gotcha.
I connect with people.
You do.
I've been very blessed, and I don't know how. And I honestly am not being condescending. I truly don't know how, but I was given a gift apparently. And that gift is the ability to connect with others. And that connection, when we talk about feed the need, and for those that don't know, may I tell them feed the need?
Yeah.
In 2008, the economy collapsed. Mm-hmm. And I read an article in the Post and Courier that said shelters were having to cut back their food service to people. And I reached out and I said, this is bullshit. I can do it, right?
Right.
It's something, I can do it. And then I realized my single most important word in my world is not God, which it is for many.
Right.
Mine is we.
Gotcha.
And Feed the Need was started by the idea that we as a restaurant community could help those in need by creating meals for everybody. And if you remember, because you weren't even there at the time, you were at the food back, I think. We got restaurants to go into shelters back in 2008, and every week serve 400 or 500 meals at different organizations, Our Lady of Mercy being one of them. And we came together to help feed the community.
Right.
We was the operative word. So I had the connections to be able to reach out to the chefs in the city through my work at the Charleston Grill and say, will you help?
Yeah.
So for me, my skill is bringing those connections to the world of charity, I guess. You would answer it better. I don't see myself objectively. In my mind, I'm still a bum. It's I'm not joking. I really am. But you perceive me differently than I perceive myself. So my ability and my strength was to connect people. Well, and I think it's important for everybody who wants to help to figure out where their connections are.
Yeah. Makes sense. And I will share with you, Mickey, you are a true connector, and how you make people feel is that you see them. And I will share with you, as a poor boy from Goose Creek, South Carolina, and being in this work as an African American, when I first met you, Mickey, you looked me in my eyes, and you didn't stop looking me in my eyes. And to this day, you still look me in my eyes and acknowledge me as a human being in this work with you. And that has always been so invaluable, because not everybody sees you. People see you as a number, they move on. You'll be in a room with some elected officials or important people. They'll look past you, looking at the next conversation, but you've never done that. And that is powerful, because you actually authentically care for people. And for me, that's important. And I know for a lot of people you serve, that's so critical.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
But I see you as somebody who truly has a heart for giving. You always have, since the first time I met you.
Yeah.
So it's easy to look into the eyes of somebody who cares. That's just a fact.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
We're kindred spirits.
Yeah, that's right. Let's get out of here and have a cup of coffee. Kindred spirits, but he can't buy me a freaking meal.
So, Mickey, share with me about leadership, because you've been at leadership at some of the highest levels of hotels, and in your community leadership that you provide today. For others in our community that are leaders, how does leadership play a role at changing communities and repairing the world? How do you feel leadership plays a role in that?
Wow. I've never really considered myself a leader, believe it or not. I really haven't.
Really?
I think that my principles in life are based around. I had a program called Teach the Need at one point.
Yeah. I remember that.
Unfortunately, I couldn't work with the Charleston school system.
Imagine that.
It was really, really difficult.
That was back in the day, yeah.
But that program was about teaching kids in Title I schools how to work in the restaurant industry,
Absolutely,
not as dishwashers,
Right.
not in the back, but in the front of the house. And I always remember that the opening speech that I would give is it's really easy as long as you remember to treat others the way you want to be treated.
Gotcha.
And as far as leadership goes, if I have been a good leader, and not, and I do think that, I just lost a partner of a restaurant of mine. We've been dear friends for 40 years.
I'm sad to hear that.
And it sort of rocked my world a little bit. I came unexpectedly. But the people that I worked with 40 years ago, both in the dining room and the kitchen, still reach out to me all the time.
That's amazing.
My first restaurant was in 1974.
The year I was born.
And
my God.
I knew you were young. But in 1974, and people that worked for me still reach out to me regularly. And I think that all comes from, as a leader, A, I was willing to do whatever I asked them to do.
Right.
And B, I treated them the way they wanted to be treated, or more importantly, or equally as importantly, the way I wanted to be.
Right.
And so I think to lead, it comes from how do we respect, acknowledge. You said to me a moment ago that I looked you in the eyes and you felt like I saw you. As a leader, if we want to go somewhere and we want people to help us get there, we need to look them in the eyes.
Yeah.
We need to respect them.
Absolutely.
And we need to be willing to do the things that we're asking them to do.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've ever, I just lied, or I was just about to lie. At this stage in my life, at 74 years old.
Oh, wow.
At 74 years old, I did a dinner the other night I was telling you about.
Yeah.
And I found myself saying to them, would you mind doing this for me? Because my body hurts. I don't want to do it. But my whole career, I was always willing.
Yeah.
And I think to lead and to create an example, we have to be willing to do those things.
Roll your sleeves up and do the work, too.
And do the work. Yeah. I'm not really fond of somebody who says, do this, do this, do this.
Yeah.
It doesn't create a leader that role that inspires others to follow.
Gotcha. Mickey.
Oh, am I doing okay, Marty?
With all your years of giving, and I've been in this work for 30 years, and so I understand that also giving comes with a cost. Has there been a time where your giving has cost you something meaningful?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I honestly can look back, and I can't think of a time ever where there was a cost that I felt was too much for what I did. Wow. Now, if you ask my wife that question, it might be
she may have another answer. Yes.
I have an organization I'm co-founder of called Ben's Friends.
Yeah.
And Ben's Friends, which I created with a fellow named Steve Palmer, who is from the Indigo Road Group. Steve and I created an organization to help restaurant people struggling with addiction.
Yeah.
when I get a call at 1 o'clock in the morning from somebody who is struggling to stay alive, my wife might say it's too much.
Yeah.
There are times where I think my wife looks at me and goes, you need to slow down.
Yeah.
You need to slow down.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the negative, and I see it from her perspective.
Absolutely.
But, it's like with Feed the Need.
Yeah.
If I stop doing it right now, there's about $1 million that doesn't get after costs, that doesn't get to the community.
Absolutely.
That's a big loss.
Absolutely.
A big loss for Our Lady of Mercy and for all the organizations that we give to.
Absolutely.
I'm not ready to say no. I
understand.
I hope I answered your question.
No, I think you did share the cost of it.
Yeah.
And that's where, I've been as well. I've had, an ex-wife in this community who was very meaningful to me and who was my high school sweetheart. And I just could not say no to community because I felt like I needed to be there.
Yeah, there's a cost there.
But you've been able to navigate it, and that's the beauty of it. And it's having a partner that, fully embraces the journey with you. And not all that doesn't happen all the time.
Yeah. I'm fortunate. I chuckle when you say fully, because I will tell you, my wife, there are times where she wishes that, right now for Ben's friends, I'm planning 6 dinners around the country at restaurants in different cities. And so in March, I have to go to 2 cities. In April, I have to go to 2 cities.
Oh, wow.
And it's honestly more than she would like.
Gotcha.
So I have to talk her into coming with me.
Gotcha.
So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. You go to some beautiful places, though, hopefully.
Well,
yeah.
I'm doing it in a restaurant, one of the great restaurants in New York, one of the great restaurants in Chicago and Birmingham and different cities,
What's the most fascinating or greatest experience you've had at a dining experience where you've been a guest? Not that you've been hosting.
I can't answer that question, Jermaine.
Really?
I have been blessed with extraordinary experiences from some of the world's greatest chefs. I mean, truly extraordinary experiences. I have been cooked for. Maybe your audience knows the name Emerald.
Yes.
Right? Emerald.
Yeah.
I have had Emerald personally cook 21 courses of food for me over a 5-hour period and literally serve me himself. I've had Ducasse, one of the greatest chefs in the world, literally do things. I have sat with my wife in extraordinary venues and had experiences that were mind-boggling. I mean, there's so many. If there's one dining experience that stands out, I was 17 and McDonald's opened on
what street?
If there's one experience, and I don't know how long this podcast goes, but if there's one experience that stands out, it was my 60th birthday.
Okay.
And it was at a place called the Cloister on Sea Island.
Okay.
And it was done by a guy named Casey Lavin, who is now the president of BMOC Hospitality, which is opening the Cooper.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he wasn't a president, and he told my wife, I'll try to make it short. He told my wife, you just bring Mickey and show up. I've got everything covered.
Yeah.
We went down to the Cloister, and we had this beautiful cottage on the ocean. He said to Ellen, make sure he's in the lobby at 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
At 7 o'clock, we got to the lobby, and he was there, and somebody was with him and said, "Please join me on the first leg of your journey." And they took us into the kitchen in a private chef's booth, and they handed us a silver platter which had a TV remote control device and said, "The only decision you need to make is what channel to watch." And the two of us are sitting in this beautifully appointed booth,
Yeah.
looking over the kitchen as all the chefs are making the meal. And you click a button to this channel, and it takes you right up to a close-up of the guy putting flowers on the scallop dish.
Wow.
It zooms in. And they served us, and then they came and said, "The next leg of your journey is about to begin." And they took us into a wine cellar where a table that could seat 20 was set for two, with flowers everywhere, with music playing, and three more chefs created, each created